Hello everyone! So I've been playing guitar since I was 8 years old, which means I've been playing guitar for over like 16 years now. And throughout all those years, I've owned a grand total of 3 guitar pedals. The first one was a Blackstar LT metal, because obviously the beginner guitarist is gonna buy a pedal that was branded as metal. Second was the Ibanez Tube Screamer Mini, and most recently it was the Boss Blues Driver that you would have seen on the channel not that long ago. And out of all of those 3 pedals, I've just got the Boss Blues Driver left. I've sold the Blackstar many years ago, and same with the Tube Screamer Mini. Whereas other people who has played guitar for as long as I have, they probably would have quite a more extensive pedal collection. I felt like I haven't had the need or want to buy pedals, kind of because I grew up playing on modelers. So I started with the Zoom G2.1 NU, or whatever it's called, G2.1U, and then I moved to the Line 6 Helix LT, and then since a couple of years ago, I moved to the Quad Cortex. So I think it's about time for this lack of pedal acquisition to finally catch up on me. So today, after being a guitarist for 16 years, I'm going to build my first ever pedal board. So of course, to build a pedal board, we're going to need a pedal board. I've got this wooden board from Hartwood, which costs just £30. Quick disclosure, Hartwood is one of the brands of Gear for Music, which I've worked with in the past, but they did not send me this. I bought this with my own money. Gear for Music didn't even know that I bought this from them. So the reason I went with this versus something from like Pedal Train or Temple Audio, you know, the kind of more famous brands, was just purely because of the price. That being said, it feels sturdy, feels well built, but I am curious as to how well it's going to stand up to the test of time, like how well it's going to hold up in a gigging environment, being thrown in back of vans in a kind of touring environment. Only time will tell, but you know, so far it feels sturdy, so I'm happy with this choice. One thing you might have noticed already, that there's this long jack coming out of the pedal board. This was just something that I installed in the board the other day. I can just plug into the side of the pedal board like that, and there's enough slack on this cable that I can have the first pedal in my signal chain be literally anywhere on this board, and there'll be enough slack to accommodate that. This was just made from an old barrel jack connector that I salvaged from an old Ibanez guitar, and yeah, it works very well. My cat's come to visit me. Hey, P-Brain. You want to be in this video? What are you doing, P-Brain? He's rubbing his face on the microphone. Get out of here, P. Go, 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 go. Okay, so we've got the board. Now we need the pedals. Aside from the Blues Driver, all the pedals here are very recent acquisitions that I bought in anticipation of this pedal board build. Firstly is this Korg Pitchblack. I bought this off of Spiritbox's Guitar Tech on my last run with them with Loathe. So thank you very much, Petter. And yes, I know the Quad Cortex does have a built-in tuner, obviously, but it's nice to just have one pedal that I don't have to hold down the switch for to engage the tuner, and just have one single switch that I can easily tap on that also mutes the entire signal chain. Secondly, we've got the Digitech Freqout. To put it simply, this just simulates feedback. Kind of similar to how a Sustainiac pickup, it generates feedback, but the upside obviously is you don't need to replace an entire neck pickup to get that feedback effect, and frankly the Sustainiac pickup itself doesn't sound very good. So now I've just got this pedal and I can use literally any pickup I want, so I can just go back to having a normal neck pickup. And last of the recent acquisitions is the ProCo Rat2. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know very much about the whole line of Rat pedals before I bought this. I just knew that they sounded incredible and that I really wanted one. So I wasn't being very specific at all when I was looking through secondhand websites for a Rat2 pedal. And for £60, this is what I got. I just thought it was like this secondhand version of the one that's currently still in production. They're about £80 brand new, so £60 for secondhand sounds about right. But the more that I looked into the history of the Rat pedal, I'm starting to think that this might not be a secondhand of the model that's still in production. So for starters, the one that's still in production has a slope top. This one doesn't. This is just a square. I believe they call it a flat box. The current production model has a standard like barrel connector for the power. Mine is a jack, like the kind that you plug headphones into, but that delivers power. And the biggest giveaway, the current production models are made in China. This says made in the USA. I don't know if you can see that, but it says made in the USA. So the more I'm learning about the Rat2, I'm starting to think that I actually have the one that's made between the late 90s and the early 2000s. Those pedals are incredibly sought after and don't go for 60 pounds secondhand. I've seen them go for upwards of like 150 pounds on the secondhand market. If anyone actually knows what this is, which Rat2 I have, please let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely just really confused. Ultimately, I don't really care which one I actually have because this sounds incredible. I haven't been able to stop playing it since I got it the other day. Last but not least, I just have this expression pedal from Yamaha. This sucks, don't buy it. Not at least for using with the Quad Cortex. So this is heel down, this is 0. This is where 100 is. And then all of this does nothing. So yeah, this isn't good, don't get it. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention about power. A while ago, I asked my Instagram followers what they would suggest to power both a Quad Cortex and just typical pedals on the pedalboard. And overwhelmingly, I got recommended the Chox DC7 combined with the Chox Crux. So obviously, following that advice, I got the Walrus Audio Canvas Power HP. Let me explain. None of the local shops in the UK had any of the Chox in stock. Not PMT, Gear for Music, Andertons, wherever. None of them had it. So the next most recommended suggestion was the Walrus Audio Canvas Power, which I think looks pretty cool. Look at that. That looks so sleek. So with this power supply, you've got 3 outputs, normal 9-volt outputs to power your pedals. But the main selling point of this, obviously, is the 3 amp output with selectable voltage. Now the Quad Cortex requires 2 amps at 12 volts, so this will power it just fine. What does that say? Hey, I love you. Isn't that sweet? That can go on my tech case. This smells good. Why is it? Yeah, this smells really nice. Why does that sticker smell nice? Cool. I think it's time that I stopped yapping and actually put this board together. These are gonna go into the effects loop of the Quad Cortex. So Blues Driver is gonna be effects loop 1 and the Rat is gonna be effects loop 2. So this means I can just treat it as if that they're just like a block in the Quad Cortex signal path, and that just means I can mess around with, you know, creating scenes and scene changes. I can turn pedals on and off. The Freqout is gonna be more performative. So that's gonna go at the bottom down here where I can quickly and easily reach it with my foot, and that's gonna go in front of the input of the Quad Cortex. Oh, one more thing. To hook up all the pedals together, I did originally plan on making my own patch cables, but I couldn't find the actual plug themselves that were low profile enough. I was looking for something that's more like this, and I don't think you can actually buy those as solderable patch cables, which is unfortunate because the solderless ones are typically very expensive. So say like the ones from Diodario, Boss, Ernie Ball. But then I spotted that Gear for Music make their own. So I got in touch with Gear for Music to see if they would send me their solderless patch cable kit. And they very graciously did send this to me. I should mention though that they didn't pay me to talk about this. They just sent it to me to help me put this build together and for me to kind of check out and see if it was any good. So first thing I want to do is sort out power supply stuff. I want that up here, and I think I'm just gonna Velcro that on. I'll tell you what, before we continue any further, I'm just gonna quickly swap this camera to be up there. This angle doesn't matter anymore, we're just gonna be building the board. Okay, so since I left off, I've installed the power supply. We've got the adapter for the power supply here, with the IEC coming out like that. And the actual power supply is over here with all of its outputs facing this way. Let's get the Quad Cortex in, right here. Blues Driver up here. This Rat, I might need to take the feet off. That would probably hold it just fine. Yeah, that's not coming off. All right, against there, and then that can just go right there. That will go there. Cool, so that's all the inputs so far. There we go. So now I'm gonna start hooking up all the power for all the pedals. Let's get the tuner, Blues Driver, and the Rat. Oh, and let's get the quad Cortex as well. That'll go into there, select on, is that on 12 volts? Yeah, that's on 12 volts now. Oh yeah, of course, I need to link the power for the Freqout as well. So that's power sorted. Now, I need to do the actual patch cables. So as it turns out, this solderless cable kit from Gear for Music didn't quite work the way that I thought it was going to. Let me find a jack I can demonstrate with. This isn't like a solderless one, this is like a big fat jack that you have to solder from NeuralDSP, but this will help articulate my point. So there's the tip, and then there's the sleeve, and that is basically your hot signal and then ground. And then there's two conductors inside the cable. There's a center conductor, which it runs down the center of the cable, and then there's an outer bare shield, which makes contact with the sleeve, which is your ground. So with cable kits from like D'Addario, you just push the cable in. There's a small metal pin inside the jack that pierces into the center conductor, and then you screw on the top, which pierces into the side of the cable and makes contact with the outer shield. That's not how the Gear for Music one worked. According to the instructions, you strip off 2 millimeters of the cable, and then you fold the bare shield over the edge of the cable, and then there's a metal pin similar to the D'Addario one. There's a metal pin inside the jack that pierces into the center conductor, and then the outer shield is just the bare wires, and that makes contact with the metal casing, and that's how you get grounded. I followed the instructions, and I couldn't get it to work. This inner diameter is just ever so slightly smaller than the actual diameter of the cable, which meant it was physically impossible for the center conductor to reach the metal pin and make a connection. So I ended up trying to strip back more of the cable, exposing more of the center conductor, and trying to hopefully kind of feed it in there and get a connection with the metal pin. I had a D'Addario cable tester, and I plug one jack in and I plug the other jack in, and I just push the cable in and wiggle it around until somehow I managed to get both the tip and sleeve LED connection LEDs to light up. And once I did get both LEDs to light up, I would then hold the cables in place and screw on the metal jacket for the rest of the plug and hope that while I was screwing it on, I don't move it out of alignment and then I have to try find those places again. So yeah, it wasn't a very pleasant experience using that cable kit, if I'm being completely honest. And another thing as well is I'm not sure how well it's going to hold up to, you know, being moved around. Maybe the connection is going to come loose again, so at some point I might even just switch to the D'Addario ones or something like that, just because for the, you know, for the peace of mind, I don't want to have to worry about that. So after a full night of just figuring out those patch cables and whatever, the board is finally alive, and I'm very happy with it. I've been playing with it pretty much all day since I woke up this morning, and yeah, it's absolutely awesome. I've just got this patch here on my quad Cortex. So like I explained earlier in the video, so effects loop 1 is the blues driver, effects loop 2 is the Rat, and then amp-wise, I've just got my capture of my DSL-20 on the clean channel. It's basically like an edge of breakup tone. So let me quickly show you what that sounds like so we know what we're working with. So this is the dry signal. I've got a compressor on as well. Let's turn that off. So you can see on the top row, all the top row ones are dry. They're just without the kind of ambience, and there's no slapback delay on it. And then the bottom row are the ones with the slapback delay. So I've got BD2 dry, so that's the Boss Blues driver, obviously. Sounding very nice. And then the Rat2 dry. I love the Rat. There's no noise gate on this, by the way, so it's a bit noisy. I haven't put a noise gate in just yet, but yeah, this is the Rat. And you would have noticed me using the Freqout earlier. That's the feedback creator. Kind of like a Sustainiac. Yeah, that's so cool. And then obviously clean, that's just none of the pedals engaged in the signal chain. And then lead Lead is just basically both drive pedals on. So there's the Rat pedal on and the Blues Driver. So Blues Driver going into the Rat pretty much. Yeah, that is a really cool sound, both pedals going into each other. It's very saturated, like almost like a... not quite fuzz territory, that's just because I haven't set my Rat up that way. Let's mess around with some of these controls, but I'm probably going to put back the controls to exactly where they were, but let's have a mess around with it anyways to see what it does. So here we go, this is like fuzz. I don't know how it goes, but that's kind of like, that's like what I think of, shut up, that's like what I think of when I think of a fuzz. So that's pretty cool. Oh, that's a very nice fuzz. Oh. That is very cool. It is quite over the top for what I'd normally use it for. So one thing I've noticed while messing around with it this morning is the Rat doesn't sound that good with low tune stuff. So I'm planning to use this with the Sound of Modesty with our gigs in the future. And we have some songs that are tuned relatively low, so tuned to G. And it doesn't, well, I'll show you what it sounds like. It doesn't have the same kind of tightness that I'm familiar with say, my normal patch, which is a Schecter Hellwind, a capture of that. So let's show you what that sounds like. So there's the G. So that's the G. That's kind of like nearing fuzz territory. I wonder if I back down the distortion a little bit. If I can get it to tighten up a bit. Kind of. I feel like by doing that though, I'm kind of just like splitting hairs because I'm trying to get the Rat to do something that it's not really meant to do. That's not really, you know, what it's designed to do, to be a tight, you know, chunky, genty distortion. But for kind of lighter gain stuff, the Blues Driver sounds really, really good with that. So, for example... Well, that sounds pretty cool. What else can I play? I'll play a bit more in the normal tuning. Yeah, that just sounds like a really tight rhythm rhythm tone. So the way I've kind of had it set up here is like the blues driver is kind of for like mid-gain stuff. So if you imagine kind of like and then the Rat is kind of for more like kind of heavier, slightly heavier stuff, but it's also really nice for lead because it's so articulate. Put in the comments if you know what that's from. So that's a really cool way that I've kind of implemented this this whole setup. That's the board, I guess. I'm very happy with it. Let me know what you thought of the board. Let me know kind of what other pedals you'd like to see me try on this board. I mean, there's not much room, but I guess I could swap stuff out instead. Maybe there's some ways I could have implemented things a bit better, so I'm all open to suggestions. Please let me know. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye.